One of history's most infamous killer, the mystique of Jack the Ripper. Who was he? Jack the Ripper, the butcher of Whitechapel. In the autumn of 1888, the darkened alleys of Whitechapel, London, became the hunting grounds for one of history's most infamous serial killers, Jack the Ripper. His name would forever be etched in the annals of crime, not just for the brutality of his murders, but for the chilling mystery surrounding his identity. The Ripper's reign of terror lasted only a few months, yet his legacy continues to inspire horror, speculation, and intrigue over a century later. The grisly murders. Jack the Ripper is officially attributed with the canonical 5 victims, though many believe he may have had more. His modus operandi was savage and ritualistic, throats slashed, abdomens mutilated, and organs removed with surgical precision. His killings were not crimes of passion, but calculated acts of butchery. The legacy and the fear. Jack the Ripper was never caught. His name became synonymous with the boogeyman, a faceless, shadowy figure capable of monstrous acts. His crimes exposed the horrors of Victorian London, prostitution, poverty, and police incompetence. The eerie mist surrounding Whitechapel and the Ripper's ghostly presence still haunt crime history. The Ripper letters, such as the infamous Dear Boss letter and From Hell letter, added to the mystique. Some believe they were hoaxes by journalists, but others think they were the killer's taunts. The Ripper's legend continues to fascinate, spawning books, movies, and even modern investigations. His case remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries, a symbol of terror lurking in the fog of history. Was he a surgeon, a mad aristocrat, a butcher, or something even more sinister? Jack the Ripper remains an enigma, London's most elusive phantom, a whisper in the dark, and a nightmare that never fades. The victims of Jack the Ripper, a grisly, detailed account. Between August and November 1888, the Whitechapel district of London became the setting for one of the most horrifying murder sprees in history. The perpetrator, known as Jack the Ripper, targeted impoverished women, mostly prostitutes, who were brutally slain in a manner that suggested surgical precision and a psychotic thirst for blood. The canonical 5, as they are known, are considered the Ripper's confirmed victims, though some believe he may have killed more. Below is a chilling, detailed account of each murder, their discovery, and the gruesome aftermath. 1. Mary Ann Polly Nichols. Date of murder, August 31st, 1888. Location, Bucks Row, now Durwood Street. Mary Ann Nichols, known as Polly, was a 43-year-old prostitute struggling with alcoholism and homelessness. She'd been staying in lodging houses, but was turned away on the night of her death because she couldn't afford the fee. Reportedly, she told a friend, "I'll soon get my DOS money. See what a jolly bonnet I've got now," suggesting she intended to earn money through prostitution. Crime scene and mutilations. At around 3:40 a.m., her body was discovered by Charles Cross, a cart driver, and another man. Initially, they thought she was merely drunk, but upon closer inspection, they saw the deep wounds in her neck. A police constable, John Neal, arrived and found her throat was slashed twice so deeply that the wound nearly severed her head. Her abdomen was cut open, exposing internal organs. Deep knife slashes ran across her stomach. Interestingly, there was no blood at the scene, suggesting she had been killed elsewhere, or the Ripper had positioned the body to drain the blood. 2. Annie Chapman. Date of murder, September 8th, 1888. Location, 29. Hanbury Street. Annie Chapman, 47, was also a prostitute, struggling with alcohol and poverty. Witnesses last saw her alive around 5:30 a.m., talking to a man wearing a deerstalker hat, a cap associated with Victorian gentlemen and Sherlock Holmes. Crime scene and mutilations. At 6 a.m., her butchered body was found in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street by John Davis, a resident. Her injuries were significantly worse than Polly Nichols'. Her throat was slashed deeply, nearly decapitating her. Her abdomen was completely opened, with her intestines pulled out and draped over her shoulder. Her uterus was missing, suggesting the killer took it as a macabre trophy. One chilling detail was that a leather apron was found nearby, initially leading police to suspect a local butcher, John Pizer, who was later cleared. 3. Elizabeth Stride, the double event victim 1, date of murder September 30th, 1888. Location, Dutfield's Yard, Berner Street. Elizabeth Stride, 45, a Swedish-born woman, was slightly different from the other victims. She was not as severely mutilated. Some believe the Ripper was interrupted. She was last seen around 12:45 a.m., speaking to a man holding a parcel wrapped in newspaper. Crime scene and mutilations. At 1 a.m., her body was found by Louis Diemschutz, a cart driver. Her injuries were a single deep throat cut, severing the carotid artery. No abdominal mutilations, unusual for the Ripper's pattern. Witnesses later reported hearing noises and seeing a man fleeing the scene, which supports the theory that the Ripper had to abandon his ritualistic butchery due to an interruption. 4. Catherine Eddowes, the double event, victim 2. Date of murder, September 30th, 1888. Same night as Stride. Location, Mitre Square. Catherine Eddowes, 46, was last seen alive at 1:35 a.m., just over an hour after Stride's murder. A police constable found her drunk on the street earlier that night and took her to the station to sober up. She was released at 1 a.m. Just 45 minutes later, she was slaughtered. Crime scene and mutilations. At 1:45 a.m., a patrolling officer stumbled upon her corpse in a shadowy corner of Mitre Square. Her mutilations were among the most grotesque. Her throat was cut so deeply that her head was nearly severed. Her abdomen was ripped open, exposing her organs. Her left kidney and part of her uterus were missing. Her face was horrifically disfigured. Her nose was cut off, cheeks slashed, and her eyelids mutilated. Nearby, detectives found a piece of her bloody apron discarded in Goulston Street. Above it was a cryptic message scrawled in chalk. "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Fearing an anti-Semitic riot, police erased the message before it could be documented. On B5, Mary Jane Kelly, the most horrific murder. Date of murder, November 9th, 1888. Location, 13, Miller's Court. Mary Jane Kelly, 25, was the youngest and only victim killed indoors. Unlike the others, she had a private room, which gave the Ripper time to indulge his horrific urges without fear of discovery. She was last seen alive around 2 a.m., returning home with a man. Crime scene and mutilations. At 10:45 a.m., her landlord's assistant entered the room and discovered the most gruesome murder scene in criminal history. Her body was unrecognizable. Her face was completely mutilated, leaving only one eye intact. Her breasts were removed, and her flesh was stripped from her thighs and arms. Her abdomen was cut open, and her organs were placed around the room. Her heart was missing, perhaps taken as a trophy. Unlike the other murders, Kelly's death occurred indoors, suggesting the Ripper felt no rush and took his time in a ritualistic frenzy. Aftermath, the terror ends, the mystery begins. After Mary Kelly's brutal murder, the killings abruptly stopped. Some theories suggest the Ripper died, was imprisoned or fled London. He changed his methods or continued killing elsewhere. Despite numerous suspects, including Montague John Druitt, Aaron Kosminski, and even Prince Albert Victor, Jack the Ripper was never identified. His reign of terror lasted only 3 months, yet his name still haunts the world today. The foggy streets of Whitechapel, the blood-soaked alleys, and the mystique of his identity continue to fuel books, movies, and conspiracies. Over a century later, the question remains: who was Jack the Ripper, and why did he stop? The suspects. Who was Jack the Ripper? The true identity of Jack the Ripper remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Over the years, countless suspects have been proposed, ranging from doctors to barbers, aristocrats to mentally unstable individuals. While none were ever proven to be the killer, some stood out due to their suspicious backgrounds, proximity to the crime scenes, and eerie connections to the murders. Here is a detailed account of the most famous suspects and the evidence linking or debunking them as Jack the Ripper. 1. Montague John Druitt, the suicidal barrister profession, barrister, lawyer, and schoolteacher. Why suspected? His suicide coincided with the end of the murder's background. Montague John Druitt was a well-educated barrister from a respectable family. He also worked as a schoolteacher. Despite his outward success, he suffered from mental instability, which led to his dismissal from the school in late 1888. Suspicious elements. He committed suicide in December 1888, shortly after Mary Jane Kelly's murder, leading some to believe he killed himself out of guilt or fear of capture. Sir Melville Macnaghten, a senior Scotland Yard officer, named Druitt as a prime suspect in his 1894 report, describing him as a doctor who was sexually insane. However, Druitt was neither a doctor nor officially known to have such tendencies. His family allegedly had concerns about his mental state, with rumors of insanity running in the family. Problems with the theory. No evidence connects Druitt to the crime scenes. His suicide may have been due to personal troubles rather than guilt over murder. Verdict: a weak suspect, mostly accused based on timing rather than solid proof. 2. Aaron Kosminski, the mad barber profession, barber and hairdresser. Why suspected? Mentally unstable and allegedly connected through DNA evidence background. Aaron Kosminski was a Polish-Jewish immigrant living in Whitechapel at the time of the murders. He suffered from severe schizophrenia, hearing voices and displaying violent behavior. He was eventually institutionalized in an asylum in 1891, where he remained until his death. Suspicious elements. A Scotland Yard officer, Robert Anderson, claimed the Ripper was identified by a Jewish witness, but the witness refused to testify. Many believe the suspect was Kosminski. He was known to have a hatred for women and refused to eat food prepared by others, possibly out of paranoia. In 2019, a forensic analysis claimed his DNA was found on a shawl belonging to Catherine Eddowes. However, this evidence has been disputed due to contamination concerns. Problems with the theory. No direct evidence places Kosminski at the crime scenes. The DNA evidence is controversial and unreliable. His known violent tendencies were mostly verbal, not physical, making him an unlikely candidate for such brutal murders. Verdict: a strong suspect, but with shaky evidence. 3. Dr. Francis Tumblety, the quack doctor profession, traveling doctor and con artist. Why suspected? He was arrested during the murders and fled to America background. Tumblety was an American fraudulent doctor who made a fortune selling herbal remedies. He was known for his hatred of women, especially prostitutes, and had a fascination with collecting female reproductive organs, a disturbing link to the Ripper's crimes. Suspicious elements. He was in London at the time of the murders and arrested for gross indecency, homosexual acts, illegal at the time. He fled to the US right after the last Ripper murder, which could indicate he was trying to escape. Scotland Yard kept files on him, and newspapers at the time suggested he was the Ripper. He had a collection of human body parts, including wombs, which aligns with the Ripper's targeting of female organs. Problems with the theory. No evidence places him at the crime scenes. He was a con artist and a fraud, but there is no proof he had the surgical skills required for the Ripper murders. Scotland Yard never formally charged him, despite suspicion. Verdict: a suspicious figure, but likely more of a fraud than a murderer. 4. Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence, the royal conspiracy profession, British royalty. Why suspected? Royal conspiracy theories claim he was either the Ripper or connected to the killings. Background: Prince Albert Victor, grandson of Queen Victoria, was rumoured to be mentally unstable and allegedly had ties to prostitutes in Whitechapel. Some theories claim that he fathered an illegitimate child with a prostitute, and the murders were a cover-up to silence those involved. Suspicious elements: he was rumoured to have syphilis, which could have caused mental instability. Some claim his physician, Sir William Gull, committed the murders on his behalf. The royal family supposedly suppressed evidence linking him to the crimes. Problems with the theory: he had alibis for the nights of the murders, proving he was elsewhere. The theory is based on speculation and not real evidence. The idea of a royal family cover-up is dramatic, but highly unlikely. Verdict: a fascinating conspiracy theory, but completely unproven. 5. Dr. Thomas Neil Cream, the poisoner, who confessed. Profession: doctor and serial poisoner. Why suspected? He allegedly confessed to being Jack the Ripper before his execution. Background: Dr. Thomas Neil Cream was a Scottish-born serial killer who poisoned women, primarily prostitutes, in both England and the US. He was eventually caught, tried, and sentenced to death in 1892. Suspicious elements: as he was being hanged, he supposedly said, "I am Jack," before the noose snapped his neck. He was a known murderer who preyed on women. Problems with the theory: he was in prison in Canada during the Ripper murders. His method of killing, poisoning, was completely different from the Ripper's brutal mutilations. Verdict: a self-promoter who wanted infamy, but definitely not the Ripper. Conclusion: who was Jack the Ripper? Despite over 130 years of investigation, no definitive evidence has unmasked Jack the Ripper. The strongest suspects are Aaron Kosminski, due to witness testimony and disputed DNA evidence, and Francis Tumblety, due to his misogynistic tendencies and collection of human organs. However, the lack of conclusive proof keeps the case open. Jack the Ripper remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, a shadowy figure lost in the fog of Victorian London, leaving behind nothing but terror, mutilated bodies, and an eternal enigma. Why was it so difficult to catch Jack the Ripper? The inability to capture Jack the Ripper remains one of history's greatest law enforcement failures. There were multiple reasons why the Ripper evaded justice, including poor policing methods, lack of forensic science, the environment of Whitechapel, and even the killer's cunning. 1. Lack of forensic science. In 1888, forensic science was primitive. Fingerprinting was not yet used, DNA analysis was over a century away, and crime scene preservation was almost non-existent. Blood was not tested or analyzed, and evidence was often handled carelessly by police and bystanders. The police could not determine if the same knife was used in each attack or if the victims were connected by forensic evidence. 2. Overwhelmed and inexperienced police. 2 separate police forces, Scotland Yard, Metropolitan Police, and the City of London Police, handled different aspects of the case and often failed to cooperate. Detectives did not understand how to profile or track a serial killer. Many suspects were questioned and released due to a lack of direct evidence. The police relied on eyewitness accounts, which were often unreliable due to poor street lighting and foggy conditions. 3. The chaotic, overcrowded environment of Whitechapel. Whitechapel was a densely populated, crime-ridden area full of drunks, vagrants, and prostitutes, making it easy for the Ripper to blend in. The narrow, maze-like alleyways provided plenty of escape routes. Hundreds of violent crimes occurred in Whitechapel, so police struggled to distinguish Ripper murders from other attacks. The working-class poor distrusted the police, making it difficult to get reliable information. 4. The Ripper was careful and may have had medical knowledge. Unlike most criminals, the Ripper left no obvious clues behind. Some theorists believe he had anatomical knowledge, perhaps as a doctor, butcher, or mortician, allowing him to perform precise mutilations quickly. He may have changed his appearance or routine after each attack, making it harder to track him. 5. A flood of hoaxes and false leads. The police were overwhelmed with hundreds of false letters, many claiming to be from Jack the Ripper. Some of these letters, like the infamous Dear Boss letter, may have been written by journalists trying to sensationalize the case. Investigators wasted time chasing hoaxes instead of real evidence. Why did Jack the Ripper stop? Jack the Ripper's reign of terror lasted only 3 months, August-November 1888, yet the sudden stop remains one of the case's biggest mysteries. Theories on why he stopped include: 1. He died or was imprisoned. Some believe the Ripper may have died, suicide, illness, or being murdered himself. Montague John Druitt, one of the suspects, was found dead in the River Thames a month after the last murder. Another possibility is that he was arrested for an unrelated crime and imprisoned. 2. He moved away or fled the country. If the Ripper was a foreign sailor, traveller, or immigrant, he may have left London after the killings. Some theorists believe he continued murdering elsewhere, possibly in America, Germany, or Canada. 3. He feared getting caught. After the brutal overkill of Mary Jane Kelly, November 9, 1888, the Ripper may have realized that police were getting closer. Increased police presence in Whitechapel could have made it too risky to continue killing. 4. His urge to kill. Faded serial killers sometimes stop due to psychological reasons. Perhaps the Ripper's need for violence was satisfied, or he lost interest in killing. Some believe the last murder, Kelly, was a final act, after which he no longer had the same compulsion. 5. A cover-up or conspiracy silenced him. Some theories suggest the British government or royal family covered up the Ripper's identity, possibly by silencing him or sending him to an asylum. The Prince Albert Victor theory suggests that the royal family ended the killings to prevent a scandal. Conclusion: a mystery that still haunts us. Jack the Ripper remains one of the most elusive killers in history. The lack of forensic science, the chaotic streets of Whitechapel, and the police's inability to catch him all contributed to his ability to disappear without a trace. Whether he died, fled, or simply stopped killing, the mystery of Jack the Ripper continues to haunt historians, criminologists, and crime enthusiasts worldwide. If this story gripped you like it gripped us, don't leave without doing 3 things. Hit that like button. It tells the algorithm you want more true crime like this. Drop a comment. Was Pedro a necessary evil or just evil? We're reading everyone. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we've got more shocking true crime stories coming your way every single week. And share this video with a friend who loves dark history because some stories deserve to be remembered and warned about. This is Crime Historic Channel, and we bring you the darkest stories from history's most twisted minds. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and stay watching.